Ladies, gentlemen, and we're skipping internet trolls today because they are not welcome on this video. Welcome to episode 8 of Fan Fridays, the show where I give outsiders an inside look into the mind of an MLB All-Star. Have you ever wondered what I'd change about baseball to make it more popular? Stay tuned, you're going to want to hear this. Let's answer some questions from YouTube. First, question number 1. Are you ever going to hit a home run, Trevor? I have one career home run, and it came off of a kid I played travel ball with growing up. It was in high school, my freshman year. His name was also Trevor. That's probably the only home run I will ever hit. Yeah, probably not. I'm just surprised I have a big league hit, honestly. For a kid that couldn't hit little league pitching, it's pretty good for me. Question number 2, regarding Bauer units. So as your velocity increases over time, should your spin rate also increase? Also, what are some cues that help you throw your breaking ball? Well, as Bauer units, so Bauer units is basically spin rate divided by miles per hour. And it's almost linear. So it's a way to project what you will spin the ball at if you throw harder. So yes, basically for every mile an hour you gain, your spin rate will go up 25 RPM or 28 RPM or 30 RPM or 22 RPM. It's somewhere usually in that range. And you can use that to calculate how fast you'll spin the ball when you throw harder. Also, some cues that help me throw my breaking ball. Check out episode 2 of Tips with Trev. I go over that in there, stiff wrist, karate chop, tension on the ball, stuff like that. But I explain it more in depth on that, so check out that video. Question number 3. As a kid and up till now in my professional career, what are the biggest sacrifices I've had to make and continue to make while being a professional baseball player? That's a great question. For me, mostly it's been social life. I spend so much time devoted to improving and learning and practicing and training and lifting and all the things that go into being a professional baseball player and being a professional athlete and trying to maximize my skill set that I just don't go out with friends very often. I don't have time to see the people that I really care about as often as I would like to. I don't see family as often as I would like to. We also sacrifice summers. Everyone gets their summer break, but we don't get summers. So for traveling purposes, I don't get to see any of the northern hemisphere during the summer. There's places I'd love to go that I don't get to see because I'm playing. And a lot of the things that go on in the summer, like 4th of July, barbecue with friends, we're usually playing. Or just having a set time off with good weather to go out and play at the park or whatever it is that kids do that during school. And yeah, we don't get that. So those are always the things that I kind of sacrifice because I was always training in the summer or playing or doing whatever and never really developed much of a social life until much later in life. And now for some questions from my fans at trevorbauer.com. Nathan Buckaloo asks, what kind of upper body lifting and conditioning do you do? I didn't do a whole lot of upper body lifting for a lot of my career. I've recently added that in the last 3 or 4 years. But conditioning I've gotten done mostly through throwing. I'm a firm believer that you can build throwing fitness by throwing, just like you can build lifting fitness by lifting and running fitness by running and stuff like that. So if you're smart about your progressions with throwing, you can actually train yourself to be able to handle more volume. And that's what I've done over my career for upper body fitness. For upper body lifting, I do a lot of pulling. I've recently gotten more into pressing, nothing really overhead. Try to make sure I keep my shoulders really well positioned in the socket so I don't put myself at risk of unnecessary injury. But that being said, it is important to be strong and have mass and carry mass on your upper half. So you have to develop that. It's important to get to your baseline levels of strength. And then after that, you see some drop off in effectiveness of strength training. But I'm personally nowhere close to those. So that's still something I'm trying to catch up on. Alex Hutnick asks, what are your thoughts on legalized betting on MLB games? And this is kind of complicated. I see it from both sides. So I don't really have an opinion on this. I think that it's great for baseball because it brings a lot more eyes onto the game, similar to how fantasy sports is great for baseball. But at the same time, from a player's perspective, it kind of sucks in some ways because you get a lot of trolls on the internet like, hey, you cost me money and you're this, that, and the other. And saying all sorts of mean things to you, almost forgetting that you're a human, or maybe they remember that you're a human. I don't know. I would never go out of my way to tell someone that they sucked and they ruined my life, or they cost me my house, or they lost me money, or they cost me my championship, or whatever it is people say online. So I don't really understand why people do that. I just don't. That doesn't make sense to me, because I would never do that. So I think there's that aspect of it, but I do think it's good for the game, and it's a massive industry. So from the business side of it, I see that too. It's a complicated issue, but I think that it's something that's not going to go away. And overall, I'm hoping it'll be a net positive for the game. Okay, Jay Caesar wonders, if you were the baseball commissioner, what things would you change about the current state of baseball to make it better and more popular? And check this out. I would make it more like playoff hockey. Playoff hockey is pretty exciting. I love watching it. A reporter actually asked me the same question at the All-Star game in 2018, and that was the answer that I gave him. So I figured I'd throw it back, give you guys a little bit of an inside story on that. But in all seriousness, I think the game is great right now. I think the game right now is the best it's ever been. We have the best talent. It's the fastest. It's the most explosive. It's so good. And I think it's just different than what the vast majority of people expect from a baseball game or grew up, the type of baseball they grew up with. That doesn't mean it's bad. Yes, it's losing popularity, but I think the reasons for that are not reasons centered around the game itself, but how the game is presented and how the game is marketed, and some of the decisions that have been made by Major League Baseball that haven't turned out to be the best decisions. They've created MLB AM, MLB Advanced Media, and they tried to centralize all of their content. And it was a good strategy in the beginning because people had to pay to get MLB content, so they made a lot of money. But then the content wasn't on social media, and in the past, they're better about it now, but in the past they've kind of gone after some of these big baseball accounts, like Pitching Ninja, for example, who have this massive following and bring a lot of attention to the game of baseball amongst the younger crowd. Younger people are on Twitter, they're on Instagram, they're on Snapchat, and that's not where MLB content was. You could see NFL content there all the time, or NBA content there all the time, but you couldn't see it there because baseball was policing how freely content moved. And they made a lot of money. They made a lot of money on it early on, but they sacrificed a generation of baseball fans, and now we're starting to see that the popularity numbers of baseball are going down because we're missing that generation. So that's just one thing. I think opening up all baseball content and just pushing out as much of it as possible onto the internet and getting it in front of as many people as possible is a great place to start. That's one thing I would do. And I would leave the game itself alone. I would bring more personality into the game. I think I would celebrate the individuals and the individuality of players instead of kind of cramping down on don't express your opinion, don't bat flip. That's not how the game is supposed to be played. Don't show emotion. We don't want to show anybody else up. It's kind of stuffy, in all honesty. And it's just not what draws attention to the sport anymore. Or to sports in general. People, take MMA for example. Like Conor McGregor is one of the biggest stars in MMA. Everybody knows who Conor McGregor is because he talks a lot and he's a strong personality and he's out there and he says stuff that's controversial, and whatever you want to say about Conor McGregor as a fighter or as a person, it doesn't really matter. You know who he is, and that brings a lot of eyes and attention to that sport. And I'm not saying every baseball player needs to be like that, but just accentuate your personality. If you're just the good guy that doesn't really say a whole lot and wants to hang out with his family, that is great. Do that and show that off. There's plenty of market for that. And MLB should get behind that guy. Similarly, they should get behind the guy that is loud and out there and has this flamboyant style and listens to music and dances and shows emotion on the field. They should also get behind that guy. And there's a market for that. There's so many different markets that you can appeal to. And in the world of kind of niche marketing and niche content creation, that's what should be accentuated. That's what should be showed off. That's the type of content that should be pushed out onto social media along with their highlights, along with the game and all that. So those are just some of the things. I have plenty of ideas on this, but for your sake and for mine, so we don't rant all video long about this one subject, I'll cut it off there. Next up, Adam Conradi asks, what is your most dominant performance that you've had in your lifetime? So Little League, high school, minors, majors, etc. There's two that come to mind. I threw a one-hit shutout and struck out 15 against my rival in college, USC, at their place. And unfortunately, gave up a hit with 2 outs in the 8th to the only guy on the team that I had actually played against. And yeah, it was one of those little like fisters that dribbles up the middle, and I kind of finished off to the side, and it like was bouncing over my head, and I in slow motion could just not quite get it. And the shortstop dove, and the second baseman dove, and they both kind of crossed, and the ball rolled right between them. And yeah, that was one of them. And then actually, the game that got me to UCLA, most likely, I was pitching in high school. We had a night game. We traveled, and there's 3 coaches there. I think it was Pepperdine, UCLA, and Stanford, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that, but anyway. Coach Savage was there and saw that game, and I think I punched out 16 in 7 innings and gave up 2 hits, both to the same kid actually, an infield hit and a bloop single. And yeah, that was one of my more dominant outings for sure. Okay, now that I've answered some of your questions, I want you to answer a question of mine, and that question is, what is your favorite baseball memory? Let me know in the comments below. If you have a question, drop it in the comments below, or if you'd like a shout out in a future video, head on over to trevorbauer.com, sign up for my email list, and submit your questions on the homepage. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and share it with your friends. Help me get to my goal of 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2020. As always, thank you for watching, and I will see you on Tuesday.